This time we'd like to tell you something on working while it's cold. Like in winter, although everyone is talking about global warming, we still have to work in open air and we still have to work while it's quite cold. Now, the thing is, the definition, what is cold or what is temperature? It could be that you have to work and you measure rather low temperatures and that one guy has it more cold than the other one. So you see that's kind of objective. Why? Because it's much more interesting to go to, not to talk about temperatures as such, but about comfort values. That would mean that you take into account things as humidity, airspeed, lack or duration of sun, and so on. So you have to take into account more characteristics than purely the dry air temperature. That comes also another thing, is that legally seen, you could get to the dry air temperature where you have an interesting value of plus 5 degrees Celsius. But when it comes to having a risk analysis, something that you have to make out coming out of the royal decree, you have to evaluate. And what then will be important is that you have to take into account not only dry air temperature, but also have to take into account the airspeed, which will give you just another value on temperature and how you would feel. The feeling temperature and the comfort values would be completely different. Easy to understand that if it's, let's say plus 5 degrees Celsius, but if the wind speed would be quite high, it would be freezing cold. So, and that's something that you say should apply, you should implement into your risk analysis, which is a legal element. Now, what are those risks of working cold? Well, you have several risks, and some are well known, like undercooling. Undercooling is something that happens when your body temperature drops below 35 degrees instead of 37. That would mean that your blood vessels in your skin retract and that you get a cold sense of in your skin, and you start to shiver and shake, something quite common. Other thing is you can lose your conscience and can even get that bad that can be lethal. Another thing, when it really gets very cold, is freezing, like fingers, toes, so on, but that's already quite harsh. And maybe a third disease that is maybe less now is the disease of Raynaud, which means that, like, for your fingers you would get a sense of having fat fingers, so blood doesn't go that well to your fingers anymore, and it seems that your fingers can't move anymore, so lack of concentration, lack of coordination of fingers, toes and other things. So there are quite some important risks when you will work in the cold weather. Now let's have a look to the legal side of all of this. Okay, we still have ARAP, which was quite clear, black and white, stating a couple of things, and most of those things are still valid, but it's not quite impressive. It's more that you have to protect your employees and that you have to foresee that you can't slip, trip and so on. Major big lines. But there's also some royal decree from the 21st of June 2012, which is much more specific. And again, this one is more written towards the law and well-being, meaning that risk analysis is put in front. And it even states what you have to do and which kind of parameters that you have to take into account. So they go much more in depth, and they will ask you to think of not only air temperature, but humidity, workload, type of PPEs, work loading that you will use. So you have a whole list of things. And that would also mean that as an employer, you would need to measure, set up a risk analysis, you need to put up a plan, a winter plan, and have to measure and evaluate temperature and the conditions where the employees have to work under. So it's much more complex than before. Have a look at a royal decree and see what it stipulates. Okay, and there's even more to do. I've already been talking about risk analysis. but it's not an analysis that has to be done as such by yourself in your office. It's in fact something that has to be presented to the committee PP. So it has to go to the doctor, company's doctor. He has to give advice, and they have to really have a thorough check. They even have to go towards first aid, just to see what if, how will you act as a company if there would be any kind of problem, if one worker would become ill. And there's even more. Even when you make part of construction, you have a collective labor agreement from 2011 that stipulates, again, a whole range of things that the employer has to implement. So there's quite some regulation on this item. Interesting to see what that is. And it's much more than only foreseen drinks, hot drinks for everyone on site. Yeah, and also some small quick tips. Just know that cold air means dry air. So water is important. So if you would start to drink, let's say, a lot of coffee, strong coffee and tea, these are products that make that water disappear from your body. So it's not really a good idea to drink loads of coffee during winter time. Also sugary liquids, not really a good idea to do so. And even another product that is often used in construction sites, tobacco, which is also not the best of the intentions to do, because tobacco can enhance the syndrome of Raynaud, that disease where you feel your fingers are kind of dead. So less coffee, less tea, and less smoking. That would be nice idea during winter time. So that was a bit it. A couple of things on winterplan, threshold values, and know that there's a whole set of things to do, as well technically as towards organizationally. Winter, also have a look to the role decree, tells a lot of things to do, and it will refer to a couple of norms that you need to implement. And do this please up front. Don't do it when it's already cold. We will be too late to plan the correct things to do. Okay, hope it was helpful. See you next time. Bye.